Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for coming to this very important meeting of the City Council as we do the people's work. And at this time, council members, if you would please stand for the invocation that will be given by Councilman Curtis Edmonds, and then please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Edmonds.
Gracious God, our Father, we thank you, Lord, for another opportunity to be concerned and involved with the business of the city of Portsmouth. We ask that you anoint our tongues, our mouths. God, give us the things to say that are right and appropriate. We ask that you bless the council members and all that are involved in the running of the business of our city. We give you glory and praise for it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Edmonds. At this time, council members, if you would please indicate your presence electronically.
7 members of City Council are present.
Okay. Members of City Council, you have before your consideration the minutes of a call meeting of October the 13th, 2015, and a regular meeting of October the 13th, 2015. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Move adoption. Second.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. The minutes are adopted 7-0.
All right, very good. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. 15-376 presentations. Presentation of Small Business Saturday Proclamation. If the following would join Mayor Wright at the Sergeant at Arms desk. Tony Goodwin with the Old Town Business Association. Mary Fernandez with the Midtown Portsmouth Association. And Nelson Velez with the Churchland Regional Association of Businesses.
Well, good afternoon. This is a special time for me and this city. Y'all can come on over so make sure you get on that in the view of the camera here. Small Business Saturday is a huge deal, not only in our city and in our region, but throughout this country. I think we all know the important role that small businesses play in this nation's economy. And regions like Hampton Roads and cities like Portsmouth, they play a vital role. I have a proclamation here that I want to present, and I'll give it to each one of you after I read this. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas the government of the city of Portsmouth, Virginia celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 28 million small businesses in the United States. They represent more than 99% of American companies, create 2/3 of the net new jobs, and generate half of private sector gross domestic product. And whereas small businesses employ over 55% of the working population in the United States, and whereas Portsmouth, Virginia supports our local businesses that create jobs, boast our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods. And whereas advocacy groups and public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Kenneth I. Wright, the mayor of the city of Portsmouth, Virginia, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 28th, 2015 as Small Business Saturday in our great city. I'm urging all of our residents of our communities and communities across the country to support all of our small business and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. In witness whereof, and on behalf of the Portsmouth City Council, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Portsmouth, Virginia to be affixed to this 12th day of October to 27th. How about that? No, we don't want to go back. 27th day of October, 2015, signed Kenneth R. Wright, Mayor. Now, we have 3 representatives here from the Small Business District, and I'll ask each one of you, if you would, just say a comment or two. But as a small business owner myself for 15 years, I truly understand the importance of that and how the more we stick together and the more we work within our communities and be good corporate citizens, the communities will return the favor. And so there's a two-way street there. And a lot of our small businesses, because we're small, we often don't have the budgets and the overheads to get out and do things, because you're probably working the cash register and doing the books at night and cleaning the office and going to buy the materials and the supplies. And so sometimes it's hard, but that is an important part, because the community are the ones that will keep all of us going. So I'll start here on the end. My friend, I saw you Saturday morning. We meet again.
I was pleased to see you, Mayor. Next time, stop by. That's right, that's right. And that's part of, that is actually part of what we should all celebrate. We celebrate our free republic and redress our grievances, but also be good servants. You're good servants when you come out here to appear before council and address issues, meet our representatives. And you're also good servants when you perform a business and you try to serve as best you can your customers and try to protect them from high taxes and spending. But, but it is true that we all want a prosperous city. And I'm sure that you can join me with this, that anything that we can do to make it so that it is prosperous will be done. Thank you.
Well, great evening. I believe in our city of Portsmouth, and I love our city of Portsmouth, and I've been volunteering almost all of my life, following in the footsteps of my father and other great community leaders in Mount Hermon and surrounding areas. And I believe that Midtown, we saw it before it came, that Midtown is going places, and together we can do more. So every time our businesses are successful, it makes a better community when we reach out to one another. We want to know each other. We want to know our neighbors, and we want to know when someone's missing.
And of course, greetings from the downtown community. Old Town, as some of you know, has been flourishing since 1752. And we, of course, admire the fact that High Street is created as a 100-foot right-of-way, one of the largest main streets in colonial America, still exists today and thriving with small business up and down High Street in at least the first 8 blocks of that street. So we thank you for being part of it and celebrating in the Small Business Saturday with us, and welcome you all to come down.
Thank you. Let's give them a hand.
At this time, we'd like to call forward Lieutenant Sean Doney.
Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Manager Dr. Patton, City Council. First, I'd like to thank Vice Mayor Simmons for the invitation to speak before you all tonight. My name is Sean Doney. I'm a fire lieutenant assigned to Ladder Company Number 1, A shift at Station 1. I've been in the city for 12 years. I'm joined by my wife and my mother, who is a 13-year breast cancer survivor. A little story to start things off. Firefighters, we have a lot of traditions. We share T-shirts. Back in 2009, we had some firefighters from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, that stopped by the station asking for some T-shirts, pink T-shirts, to take back to a firefighter that they had that was diagnosed with breast cancer. They wanted to surprise her with this T-shirt, and at that time, we did not have any pink T-shirts to offer. The pink T-shirt campaign started in 2009. Chief Barfield approved us to wear the T-shirts Friday nights until Monday mornings. What we've done is we've sold T-shirts throughout the community to the firefighters, to you all as well, got pink T-shirts. We also have participated in the Pink in the Rink which is a hockey game at the Admirals. We all get seats, we all sit together. With the donations in selling t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, we have donated $6,041.13 to the local chapter of the Susan G. Komen. The average mammogram cost here in Tidewater is at roughly $125. By selling these t-shirts, we were able to give 62 mammograms to people who were not able to afford them. This does not take into consideration the awareness that we have brought by wearing these pink t-shirts. With the firefighters' donation to Susan Komen, we will also work diligently to find a cure, but the best is early detection is our best defense. Here are some of the statistics for the Tidewater area. In Virginia, it's estimated there will be 6,090 new cases of female breast cancer and 1,090 deaths from female breast cancer in 2015. There will be 1,400 new cases of breast cancer in the Tidewater area alone. This means each week, nearly 24 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. In closing, the best protection is early detection. And the Portsmouth Fire Department is making early detection possible to women who don't have immediate access by raising money to be able to get these mammograms. I'd like to thank Chief Barfield for his support. He's always supported us. We've always supported him. My wife for all the help in the pink t-shirts. And the wonderful ladies at the credit union. They always help us keep the money straight. They keep making the checks for us. So, and our fire department credit union is located right next to the library on Cedar Lane, 3209 Cedar Lane. They're open Monday through Friday from 9 to 4, and they have stacks of shirts. Sweatshirts, hooded shirts, sweatshirts, you name it. Okay.
Very good.
Anybody have any questions?
No, I want to actually thank you and the fire department for your efforts. This is something that's important to all of us.
Absolutely.
We do a great work here in the city of Portsmouth, not only with the fire department, but a lot of our other organizations and churches and all, because this is a huge deal, and we want to see more birthdays out of all of our citizens. And I applaud the effort that you guys are doing, and thanks for the shirts. Don't we look great?
Absolutely. Thanks for wearing them.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Presentation of lapel pins to newly appointed board and commission members. If the following would join Councilman Edmonds at the Sergeant at Arms desk. With the Americans with Disabilities Commission, Mr. Willie Bamberg. With the Behavioral Healthcare Services Advisory Board, Dr. Denise Key. With the Library Board, Ms. Lynn Laws. With the Museum and Fine Arts Commission, Ms. Regina Goodwin. And I'm not sure if these people may have come in after we stopped checking. With the Library Board, Ms. Valerie Wright. Did she come in? Okay, she's here. And with the Wetlands Board, Mr. Donald Smith. Did he come in? Okay.
Tell you how much we checked that list. She's a preacher, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, my, y'all look like a happy group. And with that said, we're happy glad that you have decided to lend some of your time to our city, one of the greatest cities in the Hampton Roads Circular. And we know that because you are here and you're becoming involved, that our city will be just that much better. So on behalf of the mayor and my colleagues on city council, we welcome you with open hearts, open eyes, and open ears, and even every once in a while, open pocketbooks. But we're grateful that you decided to lend your time and talent. May you do it well, and may you look and find greater things that can be done to make our city the best ever. Congratulations to all of you. By the way, this is the mayor's sister.
My little sister.
We worked together for years at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, and it's good to see you. Thank you very much. Let's give them a hand clap.
Again, thank y'all very much for your participation, and we look forward to great things, and well done, Bishop. Madam Clerk.
Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 3 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 3 minutes, you will see a green light. 2 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 3 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments. City Manager's Report 15-377, adoption of an ordinance accepting a kids' meal program grant in the amount of $515,160 from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Child and Adult Care Food Program, administered through the Virginia Department of Health, and appropriating said funds in the FY 2015-16 Grants Fund. Vision Principle, Neighborhoods, and a Sense of Community. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Move adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. 15-378, adoption of an ordinance accepting funding from the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services in the amount of $70,000 and appropriating said amount in the FY 2015-16 Behavioral Health Care Services Fund for the purpose of funding a mobile crisis clinician position. Vision Principle, Neighborhoods, and Sense of Community. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. 15-379, adoption of an ordinance authorizing transfers within the FY 2015-16 Capital Improvements Fund of $325,000 from the Judicial Facilities Improvements Project, $125,000 from the Children's Museum Elevator Project, and $350,000 from the HVAC Replacement 1846 Courthouse Project to the 801 Water Street Project. Vision Principle, Efficient Responsive Government, electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask the city manager if she would explain this one, what it is and why we're doing it.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, the $325,000 from the judicial fund that has already been spent for the renovation of the second and fourth floors at 801 Water Street was taken from the judicial fund. However, the appropriation was not brought to you prior to this amount being spent. I have our finance department reviewing all projects and transfers for the fiscal year 2015. If there are any other transfers that fall into this category, it will be brought to your attention. So your approving this tonight places it in the right category for the monies that had been spent, so that we can have all of the monies properly under 801 Water Street to continue the renovation of that facility.
So this was done before you became city manager and without proper authority?
It was, the renovations that have been completed in there were completed and the monies used prior to my coming on as city manager. But I called to council's attention that I am very aware of the city code, which is 12.5, which is transfers of appropriation. And as the city manager, I, at any time during the fiscal year, transfer any unencumbered appropriation balances not to exceed $100,000 from one department project, program or purpose to another department project, program or purpose within the same accounting fund. Therefore, any amount over $50,000 that I deem that needs to be transferred will be brought to your attention before the work or transfer is done.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. We're in need of a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0.
Thank you.
15-380, adoption of an ordinance accepting a grant in the amount of $44,990 from the U.S. Department of Transportation, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration through the Virginia Highway Safety Office and appropriating said funds in the FY 2015-16 grants fund for use by the Portsmouth Police Department to deter driving under the influence of alcohol. Vision principles, neighborhoods, and sense of community, quality of life, and efficient responsive government. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Move adoption. Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. 15-381, adoption of an ordinance accepting a grant in the amount of $6,958 from the U.S. Department of Transportation, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration through the Virginia Highway Safety Office and appropriating said funds in the FY 2015-16 grants fund for use by the police department to increase usage of occupant restraints in vehicles, vision principles, neighborhoods and sense of community, quality of life, and efficient responsive government. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. 15-382, adoption of an ordinance accepting a grant in the amount of $3,479 from the U.S. Department of Transportation, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration through the Virginia Highway Safety Office and appropriating said funds in the FY 15-16 grants fund for use by the police department to deter speeding. Vision principles, neighborhoods, and sense of community, quality of life, and efficient responsive government. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. 15-383, adoption of an ordinance accepting an Edward Bryan Memorial Justice Assistance Grant in the amount of $67,837 from the U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance, and appropriating said funds in the FY 15-16 grants fund to purchase equipment and to support the Circuit Court Drug Court Program. Vision principles, change and new directions, quality of life, and efficient responsive government. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Move for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. New business 15-384, boards and commissions. Councilman Edmonds.
Thank you. Mayor and members of the council, I offer for your consideration and move the adoption of the following appointments and reappointments to boards and commissions. Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority, Lopez Scott Sr. and Danielle Jones. Planning Commission, Asio Gee. Reappointments, Board of Zoning Appeals, James Ellis, Curtis Gunn. Economic Development Authority, Anthony Hines. Planning Commission, Preston Vaughn and Amy Thompson. Historic Preservation Commission, Lynn Browley.
Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is adopted 7-0. 15-385, item submitted by council members.
Let me first of all start off with a couple of kudos to our school system. First, I want to congratulate all of our high schools for having successful homecomings over the last couple of weeks. We've had homecoming celebrations. I was invited to a couple. I actually, 2 weeks ago, went to the pep rally, as they call it, at IC Norcom, and was just blown away with the excitement and the energy in the crowd with the kids and the whole community piece and school piece and togetherness. It was great. And then last Friday, I was invited over to Churchland High School and to theirs. I just wish we would have won on the football field, but we'll work on that. But I said that only to put a plug out to the principal at Churchland, Dr. Susan Bechtal. She was the actual MC of the pep rally and did an outstanding job. And we had, if you can imagine your high school days of pep rally, these kids were all revved up and ready to go. And the thing that caught my attention is she had all of her teachers, I think a couple of security folks, and some of the custodial staff that come out on the floor and dance to the students. They did the whip and the nay-nay. And let me tell you, the older crowd showed the younger kids just how it's done. But I want to applaud Dr. Bechtal and all of the schools for successful ones. Also, I want to, on Wednesday the 21st, I actually went over to West Haven Elementary School, spoke to some third graders in Miss Heath's class. They're studying local government at that age, and the class decided to write letters to the mayor and talk about their version of what local government is and what they think the responsibilities are. So I actually went over and had each one of the children to read letters, and it was really amazing to go and watch kids at the third grade level after they've learned about the national, state, and local governments and their perspective on how things work and who does what. And I was really impressed with Miss Heath's class, and I mentioned to her that I was going to mention that. But the next day, on Thursday, we had what is referred to as Jump Start's Read for the Record. This is their 10th anniversary, and every year on that day, October the 22nd, around the nation, citizens from around the nation read a story to kids. And participation, and they try to break the record. I forget, 22 million or however many million. I think 30 million might have been the goal this year. But we did our part here in Portsmouth. We had citizens all over to come to the local elementary schools to read. I was at Brighton Elementary with Councilman Cherry. I think Laura Armstrong, is Laura out there? Miss Armstrong? Oh, Laura Armstrong and several others. And this year's story was a book called Not Norman. And Norman was a goldfish, and a little boy got a goldfish as a pet, he didn't want Norman. He wanted a dog or a cat and some other things. And as the story went on, the little boy found out that Norman did some things that impressed him and he liked, and by the end of the story, he was crazy about Norman. And I think that was a fitting story about how we should not prejudge and get to know each other and spend time together, and we'll find out that none of us want to get rid of Norman. But anyway, I want to thank them for that. So that was great. And Mr. Cherry, before I finish, you want to comment? How was your class?
My class was great. I actually gave them homework and quizzed them afterwards, and they remember some stuff about the book that I didn't. I had just read it to them, so they were very good. Mayor, before you move on, you have one school board member out there. I see.
I do not do that. I'm sorry.
Reverend Cordell Patilio Jr. is out there in the audience.
Okay, Mr. Patilio, would you please stand? The Honorable. Yes, sir. Nice to have you here. I thought I saw Ted Lamb as well. Is Mr. Lamb here? I thought I saw him out in the hall. Oh, there he is. He's always Mr. Lamb. Welcome. Good to see you. See, we didn't know you were here, and we're plugging the schools, right? That's right. And along those lines, I think you heard about the information that just got published, I believe today, about the improvement of our schools and schools in Hampton Roads. But the statistics show that Portsmouth had the greatest amount of improvement, and I believe we have 11 of our schools now that are fully accredited, and there was quite a few others that had partial accreditation. So that's always good news to hear. Keep up the great work, all of our teachers, principals, and administrators. Also on Friday, this Friday coming up at 12 noon right here in the chambers, we will have the oath of office ceremony for our next city attorney, Mr. Solomon Ashby. It will again be Friday at 12 noon. It is open to the public, so if you're available, please come in, and Mr. Ashby will be here, and I'm sure would love to meet any and every one of you. He's, again, I think we've already talked about his bio, but he's a young man from Portsmouth, graduated from IC Norcom, and enjoys it. He's worked in Atlanta as well as in the city of Suffolk, and so he's coming here to join our legal team, or actually to head our legal team. And so Friday at 12 noon, you're all invited. And then two other things, and I see we have a couple other folks that want to speak. Saturday was United Nations Day, and the AKA sorority had a workshop that they did with some high school kids to talk about the United Nations and the partnership and the role we play in the world, as well as other countries and things that go on. And it was pretty fascinating. They showed a nice video, and this is a partnership that the AKA sorority has partnered with the United Nations Association to be able to educate kids about these types of issues. And they had a nice 5 or 10 minute video that they showed the kids about things going on around the world and those types of things. So I want to applaud them for that, because that was a first for me, and for them to step out and have that type of national partnership to be able to try to make a difference in the lives of kids, I thought was vitally important. And then finally, I got a birthday wish. Saturday, I went at noontime to Bishop Ted Thomas' 80th birthday, and he has been the bishop here in the city of Portsmouth at Community Church of God in Christ off of Tarnack Road for 47 years. And one of the things that I did not realize was all of the pastors and preachers in this region that he has touched, and either under his tutelage or had some type of influence. And it was nice to see all of those people come and to celebrate in this special day for him. But the special piece was they had someone in a room locked up that was a special guest that they brought out to the crowd to speak to Bishop Ted Thomas. And it was our very own Joe and Betty Wright. They worked together about 40 years ago, and I was stunned to see Mr. Wright come out, and he gave a well-deserved talk about Bishop Thomas. And so it's always good to see and hear, when you're in our communities, people talking and talking about the goodness of our people. And, you know, we all have that slogan, and we've known it for years, that Portsmouth is for people, all kinds of people. So with that, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, sir. You all know I like to report on happenings in the city, and I'll start with something that's already happened, but we need to put some thank yous out there. If you were anywhere near downtown Portsmouth last Saturday for our safe trick-or-treat, Sheriff Watson, in your fabulous pink badge, Thank you for supporting breast cancer awareness. Sheriff Watson, Chief Mook, Chief Barfield, and the Old Town Business Association, Tony Goodwin, I think you've left the room, but all of the downtown merchants in connection with Safety Town and our two chiefs and sheriff put together a fabulous safe trick-or-treat event on High Street for 2 hours, free candy for the children, some entertainment that was wonderful. There were over 12,000 people in downtown Portsmouth for 2 hours. And I saw the mayor getting some candy. Everybody was safe. Everybody had a good time. It's a wonderful, wonderful event, and thanks to all who put that on. Coming up this Friday, in a few days, is another wonderful event that's actually even been written up in National Geographic magazine some years ago, which is the Old Town Ghost Walk. It steps off from Trinity Church at High and Court Street at 6, 7, and 8, or 7, 8, and 9. You can go to portsvaevents.com for all these types of events. And before we have our next council meeting on Saturday, November 7th, the Mayor's Military Affairs Commission, in conjunction with the city, will be hosting our Coast Guard City Day. And this is going to be, it's going to start in the morning. It will all be at the Antelos Pavilion, just outside City Hall. We'll start the day with an early 5K run. And following that, there will be food trucks. There will be free games for children. There will be all sorts of activities. Then the DeLoreans will be playing music, followed by a band called Tidewater Drive. And at about noonish, 1 o'clock, the festivities will move over to High Street, and another group called Create Portsmouth Now is going to take over. So there's going to be a lot of activity on Saturday, November 7th. There's a fee to participate in the race, but other than that, unless you buy food from the food truck, everything else is free, including the DeLoreans, which are a very popular band. So we'll celebrate Coast Guard Days November 7th. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mayor. While we have School Board Member Patillo in the audience, I seem to have read this past week that he was honored as well. Inside Business each year does a top 40 young business people that are under 40. That lets most of us up here out. But he was honored as a Portsmouth recipient, and that's a terrific honor.
That's right.
That was well publicized.
Well done. Thank you, sir. All right, Madam Clerk?
One more.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Moody.
One more thing, Mayor. A lot of us have been getting questions about the boat ramp. And while we've told different people what was going on, I think I'll use this as an opportunity for the city manager to update us on the status of it. The boat ramp.
Mayor, members of council, in working and talking with my staff over the past couple of days, a contractor has already been let to mobilize and begin the ramp repair of the wooden pilings and the deckings and stringers that were damaged during the storm. Additional damage was discovered last week during the extreme low tide, and several concrete mats have been dislodged. The majority of this damage does not appear to be storm-related. These mats are held in place at the base with a rebar that will be driven about 2-3 of them into the bottom. Bids are now due for that work to be done for the repositioning of the concrete, and we look for the boat ramps to be up and available by the end of next week. So work
Terrific.
is currently going on.
Thank you, Dr. Patton.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, at this time, since I want to let Dr. Patton have the floor, we got a special announcement we want to make to the public. Dr. Patton?
Yes, Mayor, members of council, I've received a letter from the Government Finance Officers Association, and this letter was to notify the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, has received a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for the current budget from the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA. This award is the highest form of recognition in governmental budgeting and represents a significant achievement by our organization. When a distinguished budget presentation award is granted to an entity, a certificate of recognition for budget presentation is also presented to the finance staff person who actually submits this award. This year's recipient of a certificate is Mrs. Karen Bento, who was in our last public work session. She is not here this evening, but tomorrow in the office with her colleagues, I will present her with her certificate. And I have present the GFO award that will hang in the finance office that is presented on behalf of the GFO to the entire city of Portsmouth.
Well done, thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. 15-386, report on pending items, and I think we just did that. 15-387, non-agenda speakers. Our first speaker is Ms. Betty Ashbury.
My name is Betty Ashbury, and I live in the Churchland section of Portsmouth. You know, I had really wanted to come up here tonight and compliment the council on honoring the Wilson High School football team last week, because I think it's very important to let young people know that it's not always about winning, but it's how you play the game and how you live your life, which is a great lesson that the city council could also learn
We're being nice, right?
right now.
Yes, ma'am, all right. Yeah.
But then, that was the last few minutes of that council meeting, which destroyed the whole first part of that council meeting. You know, the intelligent way to correct someone when you feel like facts and figures or quotes are incorrect is to provide them with the correct information. The unintelligent way is simply to call somebody stupid or ignorant. I've also heard that when you cannot argue the facts, then you argue with the speaker, which I happen to feel was true in this case. Now, if any of you all ever choose to want to call me either one of those names, have at it. Because you know what? I was able to go to Richmond at age 42, pass my state boards for nursing the first time I took the test. I did not have to go back 2 or 3 times more to take it. You all think right now, some of you on council, that you're sitting in the catbird seat. That's an old expression. Think about it. But you know what? You think you're in control. You think you can do anything you want to and get by with it, and the public's going to let you. But there's always tomorrow. I told you, Mayor, last time I was going to have a quote for you tonight. And I remember I told you that my people, who were all farmers, said strange things that I always used to wonder what the heck they were talking about. But now that I'm older, most everything they said made a lot of sense. So here's my quote for you tonight, courtesy of my grandfather, who's been in his grave for 70-some years. Think about it. There's a snake in the woodpile. Be very careful, because it'll strike when you least expect it. Now, if I don't have any rebuttal from anybody up there, I will take my seat.
Good night, Ms. Ashbury. Thank you.
Mr. Stephen Holt.
Dr. Whitaker, this speech will be directed to you, sir. Recently, I addressed the City Council of my opposition to racial preferences. You subsequently referred to me as stupid and ignorant. You neglected to substantiate your claim and refused to address any of my arguments. In your words, my alleged offense was, quote, and for you to stand before us as if you have some type of expertise, unquote. So apparently us proletariat peons should not dare question the intellectual social engineers who are these self-proclaimed experts. This seems to be a long way from the words of the Virginia Constitution that says, quote, magistrates, you, are there, the citizens, trustees, and servants, and at all times amenable to them, unquote. If regular citizens are not deemed worthy to speak in front of you, then one has to wonder whether you even support the right of self-government. You sound more like August Comte than someone who supports a free society. What actually determines whether someone is an expert is not a piece of paper with the word doctor on it, but rather how much knowledge or skill they have in a particular subject matter. And since knowledge is primarily subjective, you really have no idea who is and who is not an expert. And by the way, not everyone with a degree is an expert. I'll provide you a purely hypothetical example. Some African Americans can get into universities with SAT scores 300 points below their white counterparts, and some can get into law school with LSAT scores a fraction of whites, which means that some people that have degrees have fraudulent credentials, which might explain why some of these hypothetical individuals have trouble passing the bar exam. It is nice to see that you have attempted to add an appeal to authority argument to your repertoire. Unfortunately, your quote concerning Mr. King is a straw man argument. You take his words out of context and distort his position. The stupid and ignorant quote is in his book, Strength to Love, and it is not talking about affirmative action. He doesn't refer to his affirmative action opponents like you did. If you want to quote him on affirmative action, I brought his book, Where Do You Go From Here? Perhaps you can quote him correctly in the future. I'll end with an appeal to authority argument of my own. The men who passed Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, and the citizens of California who passed Proposition 209, including 26% of the black vote, all agree with me on racial preferences. My question in closing is, will you demonstrate some ideological consistency by calling all these men stupid and ignorant, or is that something you just reserve for citizens of Portsmouth? And my question is not rhetorical. Thank you.
Good night, sir.
Captain Brian Wilson.
Good evening, council. Mayor. This is the first time, it's been a while since I've been before council, and I've heard some of the things that in the past on the phone, or watching. I stand today as the training director for the Charles A. Fisher Memorial Academy for the Portsmouth Sheriff's Office. I am the training director. I stand today to just discuss some of the things that were brought to my attention a couple of weeks ago in the work session in regards to our academy. Our academy is a full-service academy, full-service independent academy, which can train both deputies and police officers in their respective fields. We have the opportunity from January to December to train law enforcement officers. It was brought to my attention that some thought that our academy was only going to be used on a minimal basis. And I come today to refute that, because as a public servant and also as an individual who has been tasked by our sheriff, William O. Watson, with the ability and the opportunity to lead that training academy, I could not come before you or before the public without stating what we do on a daily basis. Our academy trains 186 Portsmouth Sheriff's deputies. Also, the Suffolk Sheriff's Office does their in-service with us. It gives us an opportunity to train and educate law enforcement officers. Quickly, our deputy in-service training is 40 hours every other year for each deputy that works for us and is associated with us. The academies that we put on are 13 weeks in duration, and they cover a multitude of topics. It gives us the opportunity to reach out and touch other law enforcement agencies. We are always consistently working to better and improve the law enforcement community. We have, of the 44 weeks that we're here,
Thank you, Captain.
yes, we're given the opportunity to train many individuals in the Hampton Roads area. Thank you so much for your time.
Good night, sir.
Sheriff Bill Watson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council, and Dr. Patton. How you doing, dear? Well, one thing about it, at least I see that most of our city officials respect women enough to wear pink. I'd like to thank you for that, and thank you for commenting on my pink badge. We have to take care of our women because they're so busy taking care of us, they don't take care of themselves. Real men will stand up for their women. Anyway, tonight what I'm going to talk about, it was a comment made at a work session a couple weeks back that over $100,000 was spent at my work center. Well, somebody better check the books, because apparently somebody's embezzling some money. There was not $100,000 spent at my work center. The only thing we got from the city was some light bulbs, and we had to put them in ourselves. So if they charging $100 grand from my work center, they need to be prosecuted. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you another little problem we have here. It was commented on that our academy wasn't fully utilized, that y'all stopped by and there was hardly anybody there. Well, you came by at lunchtime. Doesn't take a rocket science to figure out everybody's out at lunch. If you're going to do it right. Stop by there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when you can't even get in the parking lot for all the cars. We hold classes every day. Now, the problem we have is, due to our layoff with the 25 employees that we lost, they were most of the employees that volunteered their time at the academy. We're not like the police department. We don't get overtime, okay? If they show up for parade, they get overtime. They show up for city council, they have to speak, they get overtime. They show up for graduation, they get overtime. We get nothing. We don't get paid overtime for testifying in court on our days off. That's going to change. If not, I guess we'll just have to stop making all those arrests that you make the money off of. But let me tell you where it's going to work, okay? First of all, these deputies used to volunteer their time so that we could hold different functions there at night. We tried to be good neighbors to everybody. People took advantage of it. Mr. Cherry made a statement that my academy was underutilized. Oh, yeah, right. It wasn't underutilized when his wife wanted to use our academy all those nights to have her pampered chef parties at the expense of the taxpayer. Taxpayers paying for all the utilities, she's making the money. You didn't mention that, did you?
Sheriff.
You never want to mention the real truth. But the fact remains is, we try to work there every night, but my people are getting burnt out. Now, if you want to pay them to be there for these functions, that's fine. If you don't want to pay them, then we won't have it, okay? But that academy is used all day, every day. We have to recert our deputies, and wherever y'all got these figures that we can run people through an academy for $274, I'd like to know what academy that is. That's going to be some fine, no problem. You have a good night.
Thank you, Sheriff. Sheriff, Sheriff, if you would come back up, just want to share with you, and again, oftentimes things are taken out of context. And
they sure are.
Sheriff, you need to, the mayor has the mic.
You can have the mic. Have a good night.
All right. Mr. Chair.
Mayor, you know,
I wouldn't dignify him.
I'm not, but you know, he mentioned my wife, and which is, I think, is totally unprofessional, unethical, and a whole lot of other things. My wife never had a pamper chef party at his place. I got a over 4,000 plus square foot house. She can have any party she wants to. So no need for that. And why would you make up something like that? I don't know. What I said in the work session was what was repeated to me by the sheriff's captain with 5 other people sitting around the table, who all came up to me after that work session, after that newspaper article came out, and said they couldn't believe that he misspoke. And told, I won't call him a liar, but that he just didn't tell the same story. So I just want to say, I just think that was way out of left field. You know, I never thought I'd get that from you, Sheriff Watson. I thought you were a bigger and better person than that. I would never stoop that low to attack or bring your family into something this nature. We are moving the Economic Development Authority, the department, from their lease space. We're moving a portion of the police department from their lease space. We're moving portions of our own fire department from the lease space. So you know, it's not like anybody's picking on the sheriff department, but to do what you just did, really low, Sheriff, really low. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your cordialness in those comments, and thank you for what you just said, because that's what I wanted to convey to the public. This is not about the sheriff. Our job as stewards of your tax dollars is to make sure that they're being spent wisely. And when we go and invest in certain properties and certain things, we have an obligation to you to make sure that we're utilizing properties and utilizing your dollars in the best and most efficient way. So we, the council, looked at all of the properties that we have people in that we're paying rent to. We have a lot of vacancies that we own, our own properties. So does it not make sense that if we can relocate people to city-owned properties where we're not paying those types of dollars, would you not want to do that? And so that's what we're in the process of doing. The departments and the things that Councilman Cherry just mentioned is exactly right. There's somewhere close to, is it $1 million or $500,000? We're looking at bringing that in. We're not talking about shutting down an academy or training. We are looking at where else can we best do that. What are the minimum requirements we need to be able to execute those functions? And it's only when some of us think, you know, they can come out and say we're picking on them that we create this into a big media fiasco. But that is not the intent. But the intent is to look at all of these assets. And when you go and purchase a $80 million courthouse and we're paying debt service on that new building, none of you would buy a new house and leave the old house just so you can go and do some things. And we're not going to do that with the taxpayers' dollars. And so we're spread out. We have been spread out. We're moving police, fire, we're moving a whole lot of people. And that's what our job is, and I think that's what you hold us accountable for. So thank you, Councilman Cherry. Madam Clerk.
Mr. John Wright.
Good evening. My name is John Wright. I reside in Portsmouth and maintain a business at 4021 Seaboard Court in Portsmouth. My family before me and I have maintained continuous residency in the city for almost 400 years. I come before you tonight as a Portsmouth resident, a businessman, and most importantly, a spokesperson for the people for Portsmouth, a growing organization of over 2,300 participants, all of who are deeply concerned about the direction of our city and want to help make our city better. If those in attendance would please stand. The people for Portsmouth want to change the direction of our city. It is the people of Portsmouth's belief that you are not listening to the citizens. I want to address the comments to and the treatment of speakers who come to council as civic activists and to question decisions of council. At the last council meeting, Councilman Whitaker chose to call two speakers sincerely ignorant and conscientiously stupid, instead of challenging the facts that the speakers claimed to have at hand. Based on the speaker's belief that the disparity study held facts, and in an effort to get the council to address the lack of need for a $100,000 effort for disparity management, we the people wanted answers. Instead of insulting the members of the Portsmouth community and to denigrate and belittle their comments, Councilman Whitaker should have presented facts to the contrary, and if he had any. If there are no facts to the contrary, council should redirect this $100,000. In his effort to insult and cloud the issue, Councilman Whitaker said he clearly understood what Dr. King meant. There is nothing more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. When Dr. King said that, it was in the context of explaining rationalization of the enslavement, mistreatment, and vilification of African Americans by the white community. How does that relate to our disparity study when the facts of the study clearly show that we are well balanced in most areas of opportunity? I'm not sure that it applies or relates in this case, because sincere means genuine and ignorance means no knowledge. Conscientious means to be guided by sense of right and wrong, and stupidity means poor ability to understand. Both speakers you referred to were genuine and had knowledge. The speakers were also guided by the ability to read the facts of the report. According to a portion of council rules, no citizen shall be permitted to make personal attacks against another citizen. I assume that includes this council of citizens. I hear the words of Dr. King spoken often here, and because he had much to say, it's not hard to find words of his that may be appropriate for this council to take to heart. I'll leave you tonight with several of his quotes. I always contend that as a race, we must not seek to rise from a position of disadvantage to one of advantage, but to create a moral balance in society where democracy and brotherhood would be reality for all men. Be able to live in a nation where people are judged and accepted by the content of their character or heart.
That's right.
Unity with their brethren will be evident, and we'll be able to live pleasantly
Mr.
together.
Wright, good night, sir. Councilman Meeks.
Mr. Wright, will you come back to the podium? Please finish.
You can't ask him to finish. You're going to ask him a question.
hear what he says. I just want to hear Russ's comment.
You can't hear really. You gotta have a question. He can't just talk. So you want to ask him a question?
Yes.
Dr. King.
Excuse me, Mr. Wright.
Can you tell me what you wrote down on your paper, please?
What I wrote down on it?
Or whatever you have.
On the order. Okay.
Well, now, so you can finish. I have to ask you a question so you can answer it.
Okay.
Is that a point of order?
Yeah, point of order.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Mr. Meeks.
Mr. Wright, would you please? We got a point of order. Yes, sir.
Point of order, Mayor. You have, the speaker went over the time limit. You asked him to be seated. I think that the intent of the rule is for persons to not go over the time limit, and I think that's an abuse of it, what Councilman Meeks is attempting to do. So I would ask that it would take consent of council for him to continue his speech.
And since it was a point of order, I can rule on that, and I agree. Good night, sir.
Mr. Clyde Toller.
Good evening. Clyde Toller, 1029 Blair Street, Parkview. Nice to see everybody in pink. This is good. Everybody in pink and those not in pink too. But anyway, I come to you tonight because I'm going to tell you something. If you don't know nothing about me or what I did, I'm not going to tell you. But if you ask me, I will tell you. So I want to say thanks to all the pastors, a lot of citizens that called me after I came up here and mentioned that the church should take people to shopping and also to the doctor. I appreciate that. The many of you that called me, I appreciate that very much. But anyway, we're going to let all this pass. I know Bishop Edmund, you know I've been to your church. I didn't say no when that was here. I've been to yours too. Mr. Woodard also had meetings there with the NACP. I've been to your church, Mayor, a couple of times, but I never saw you there. I've been to your church too, and you was there. But I have been to a total of 51 churches in the city of Portsmouth. Just ask any pastor. So when you say I haven't got my little eggs in the basket, I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm always coming up here putting things down in the public. Pastor Edmonds got 3 vans. Mr. Whitaker got 1, and you got 1. I know how many every one of you got, and I know what you do. So never say when I come up here that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I'm not a genius, but I'm not going to come up here and stand before this council and talk to the public about something I haven't did and don't know about. You know me very well from that, don't you? When you hold me with Parkview, when I was Parkview City League. You was great. But anyway, let's all be nice. I respect the chair of the mayor, but I don't have to respect the man. But every time I come up here, I respect every one of you up here. And you're not going to push me to disrespect you. I'm too old for that. I just had my 89th birthday here on the 23rd. And you know what? God has wonderfully blessed me. I have beat cancer twice. Lost my lungs and all. But I'm glad to see that you're supporting cancer. And I say to the policemen and everybody, I want you to keep up the good work. And to the Portsmouth, to the pilot, you can look up if you hear me. I want you to start printing what we do and what we say. Be truthful what we do and say. And in 2015, John Rowe for the mayor. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Madam Clerk.
Lee Cherry.
Evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. That is a hard act to follow. Sergeant, would you pass these out, sir? As I was on the street today, it dawned on me that we've heard this so many times, do Black Lives Matter? I'm not so sure they do, at least to the people that they should matter to. The picture you're getting ready to see is a gentleman that I saw on the corner of Victory Boulevard and Cavalier Boulevard. And for you at home that can't see the picture, it's a black gentleman with no legs and a wheelchair begging for money in the pouring down rain. I stopped and talked to him, got him something to eat. But in my conversation to him, and pardon me, I'm losing my voice because I have bronchitis, I said, is anybody trying to help you? He said, no. This man is in that wheelchair, probably a half a mile from two very large churches. Neither one of those churches have done anything to help him. And it makes me wonder about those of us, all of us, that should be out looking to help these people. You know, it is said in the Bible that Jesus Christ only lost his temper one time, at least that's what I was taught. As he hung on the cross and he looked at the one thief that had acknowledged his presence and knew who he was, he said, don't worry, for today you will be in paradise with me. He looked down at the Roman soldiers that hung him on that cross and he said, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. But when he lost his temper is when he went in the church or the temple and saw what was going on. Jesus Christ did not ride into Jerusalem in a BMW or Mercedes-Benz or Lexus. He didn't wear a $300 suit, but he was about the people. I am telling you as a street cop, and that sergeant will verify it, the churches need to get involved in this city to do something that's good to help these people. They've got to stop this racial division that's going on at the hands of some of these ministers. They have got to quit building land development corporations that go under, or federal credit unions that liquidate and none of the loans are paid back, and get back to doing what ought to be done, and that is to ministering and helping the people in this city that need it the most. Have a good night.
Dr. Edmonds.
Captain Cherry, you don't have to come up. Most of the churches that I fellowship with do what you said that's not getting done. The man that you talked about that was in the wheelchair on the corner of Victory and Cavalier, seen him out there. Every time I go past him, I give him $5. Asked him, does he need any help? He said, no, I'm okay. But we do a lot of benevolent things that it's hard to hear somebody say that we're not doing it. I'm involved with a lot of churches, so I know there are a lot of churches do it, not just black churches, white churches, interdenominational churches. We do the work, and I just wanted to set on the record that you can't condemn the churches for not doing what they're supposed to do, because they are. Everyone in here that goes to a church, can you say amen? Amen. And every one of you that does mission work, can you say amen? Amen. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you. No comment.
May I respond?
No, sir. I just want to say that.
Bishop, since you made a comment, I got to allow him to speak.
My response is, Bishop, you know how much I respect you. You do an outstanding job. My experience on the street, my experience in talking to even people here tonight is maybe you all, but there's not enough being done. You may be ministering to the congregation, that's great. Lord knows we need it. But there are youth out there in the street that need help. And there are other people that need help that are not touched. So I do think that it's not being done as it should be. So, sir, you have my respect, and you know
Thank
that.
you, Mr. Chair. Good
Thank
night.
you, sir.
And Dr. Whitaker.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, you might want to start by diversifying your sheriff department so that some of those youth you're talking about might could have jobs, since you're standing up here trying to be so sanctimonious. So I just want to share that with you.
Thank you.
And your assessment of the church, I think you would be the last one that we would rely on for some type of assessment of a church. And
may
so,
I
but I
respond?
would
You gotta
say
be
your
quiet.
position that that's what you ought to be concerned about, employing, making our sheriff's department more diverse so that some of these folks that we see out here who can get some assistance might can with some jobs. So that might be a better focus than trying to address the church.
We are very diverse in the sheriff's department, and I'll be more than happy to give you those numbers. I think you would be surprised.
I don't need it. I've seen
Okay,
it.
that's fine. But Dr. Whitaker, Mr. Whitaker, understand this. I know too much about you now to have any respect.
And I
for
know a
anything
lot
you'd
about
say.
you.
Have a nice night.
I know a lot about you.
Madam Clerk.
Mr. William Devers.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and appointed officials. I am William Devers of 4540 Hatton Point Road, Churchland, Portsmouth, Virginia. Honorable Mayor, I was horrified at the lack of respectful behavior displayed at the last council meeting by Councilman Whitaker. I hopefully expected you to intercede. You didn't. Councilman Whitaker, I'll give you a pass on this. I figure you've been up late studying for the bar exam. I can only say stupid is as stupid does. Thank you.
Ms. Donna Sy.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. Principles of Liberty 20. Efficiency and dispatch require government to operate according to the will of the majority, but constitutional provisions must be made to protect the rights of the few. On March the 4th, 1801, at Thomas Jefferson's inauguration, he stated that all need to bear in mind a sacred principle that though the will of the majority is in all cases to prevail, that will must be reasonable, that the few also possess their equal rights, which equal laws must protect.
Set it down just like that. I
And to
don't need
violate
hang
these
nothing.
rights would be oppression. Portsmouth City Council has the rules of order to protect the people's rights. And these rules of order and procedure were violated by two members of City Council on October the 13th in regard to two non-agenda speakers. In response to this violation, we the people are filing this grievance petition with the city attorney. Whereas City Council's power and duties are contained in state law and city ordinances, resolution, and regulations. Whereas in carrying out their statutory duties, the city's elected officials' responsibilities are the following: adopt ordinances, resolutions, policies, and regulations for the health, safety, and welfare of the current and future citizens of the City of Portsmouth. Establish goals, objectives, and performance measures for the city government and the city manager. Setting and interpreting rules governing its own proceedings. In the Rules of Order and Procedure for Portsmouth City Council, it reads, "No language or conduct detrimental to the function of the meeting shall be permitted. The presiding officer shall maintain the dignity of the meeting, preserve decorum and order, and shall call out of order any person violating these rules of order and procedure. Whereas the City Council has failed to govern its own proceedings, as evidenced by the mayor, a councilman inhibiting a robust and wide-open expression of the citizens' right to exercise their freedom of speech is guaranteed by the Virginia Constitution by vehement, caustic, and sharp attacks in response to two of the citizens' presentation. Therefore, we the people recommend that the city attorney draft a resolution to censure the actions of the mayor and the councilman in the following manner. The mayor shall step aside until the outcome of the recall petition is announced, and he shall pay punitive damage to Master Sergeant, retired, $1,500. The councilman shall be removed from the Minority Women's Business Enterprise Commission and removed as a school board liaison, and he shall pay punitive damage to Brian, $1,500. That the city council majority shall sign the resolution to censure both the mayor and the councilman as directed by we the people. From fear of retaliation, citizens have given their consent anonymously. Thanks for listening.
Good night, man.
Mr. Mark Godalda-Gietrowski.
In light of remarks made by speakers who preceded me, I'm taking a slightly different tack in terms of my address to you tonight. I want to quote from a song by the Moody Blues. I'm not going to sing it for you. I have compassion. But I do think that the words have relevance for all of us in the chamber and for those who are watching at home as well. So the song is called The Balance, and they're writing about a man who thought of those he angered, for he was not a violent man. And he thought of those he hurt, for he was not a cruel man. And he thought of those he frightened, for he was not an evil man. And he understood himself. Upon this he saw that when he was in anger or knew hurt or felt fear, it was because he was not understanding. And he learned compassion. And with his eye of compassion, he saw his enemies like unto himself, and he learned love. Then he was answered, just open your eyes and realize the way it's always been. Just open your mind and you will find the way it's always been. Just open your heart, and that's a start. If we are going to heal our community, if we are going to treat each other as neighbors, if we are going to work together to make this city the best that it can be, then we have to recognize in each ourselves. We need to deal with each other as good neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Robert Falk.
Good evening. My name is Robert Falk. I live at 215A Depot Drive on the corner of Turnpike Road and Frederick Boulevard, across from the Crocus. I'm here tonight to ask the city. I applaud the city, first of all, that you have public transportation, and that's a good thing for the children. However, I'm here to ask if some kind of temporary shelter can be put up for the children. The children leave their homes in the dark, early in the morning, about 6:50, I say. And they got 15-pound book bags on most of the time. But if it's raining, if the wind is blowing hard, if they are dealing with the snow, it's no shelter in place for the children. We ask the children to strive for excellence. And but sometimes if they get into school, their tennis shoes and socks are wet, their hair's blowed out of place, they have nowhere to go and refresh, nothing fresh to put on or warm to put on or dry to put on. I know in your budgets is no room for building temporary shelters for all the places where the buses, school buses stop at. But it is some short-term fixes. I think one of them is allow the school buses to come in school zones earlier for the high school children, so that the buses can be there when the children get to the bus stop. Because the weather is like a bully to the children after you get out your bed and you're competing against people that's driving, trying to get to work. The children that's walking are competing against them. If they're high schoolers and they're out in the dark. And so, but there's nowhere to go once they get to the bus stop. Could the buses be parked out earlier, or could some kind of clothing be set at the schools in case some of the children get there wet or what have you? Could they get a timeout in the morning or something in case they've been bullied by the weather, you know? But those are just some little short-term fixes, and I'm just hoping that council will act on something. It's promised by all the weather stations that it's going to be a very bad winter. And before we get there, the walkers you might can't help, the bike riders you might can't help, but the children that's getting to the bus stop, something presently need to be done. They standing out in the rain, the temperature been going up and down, and they're at a real loss, and they off to a bad start. The teachers, they get to school, they fresh, they energetic, because they drive. But the children at the bus stop, so just asking for your consideration. Have a great night.
Thank you. Mr. Falk, let me just share with you, I appreciate your concern for our children, and that's very important. We got 2 school board members here tonight that heard your call. The school board makes those type of decisions. We supply funding to the school system for their request. And so if something like what you're proposing would go through, it would come through the school board, and then it would come as a request to council for funding. So I would recommend that if you go to the school board meeting or either meet with one of these 2 school board members that are here tonight, that would be a good start, and then it'll come this way. We're the funding piece. We don't get into those mechanics of what they actually do there. So, but thank you for your concern. Okay.
Well, sir.
Yes, sir. Good night.
Our final speaker is Ms. Kentrell Devon.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Kentrell Devon. I reside in Newport. I came here tonight to speak on domestic violence because that is also in the month of October, and many times the council failed to address domestic violence, which is important in our community as well as around the world. We recognize that. But as I sat here as a black woman, I took it very hard hearing a white man say that black lives does not matter to those who say it does because he stopped to help a gentleman in a wheelchair. When I'm out there, and I know who's out there in the streets, paving the way, where many times they dare to drive, I took that serious. It was very offensive because of the rallies that we have put on, the community events that have been made, inviting all to come, and they dare not show. But they stand here tonight and address the churches that open their doors, that go out into the streets and speak to our children our young adults, mothers who have lost their sons to senseless violence, and they are absent. It's not because the cameras are not, it's just because the cameras are not there doesn't mean it's not happening. And for everyone that applauded in this room tonight, I'm here to tell you, as a citizen of Portsmouth, you are absent when we need you the most, because what's presented here behind this council, in front of this council, is not actually what's going on as a whole in the city. So I think when you get up here, you need to be careful. And if you have a direct comment to someone, say that. Because you lose people when you make the comment, Black lives do not matter. They do matter. And I will say this, and I could care less who gets offended. Dr. Whitaker, thank you for the studies that you push. Thank you for bringing up the word diversity, because I was going to pull up a comment, an article from Forbes that says the real victims of discriminations are those that are poor. Less than 5% students from Yale graduate because of finances. So don't think because the African American community is not represented that they don't qualify. Good night.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, is there anything else? All right, good night, we're adjourned.